We need to talk about Fire Mage in Midnight. This was supposed to be a video of me blasting moderate keys, doing big damage, and having fun, and yeah, I did that. It was fun. The builds I tested worked, and the damage was there. The vibes were good. I did this solely because I wanted to remember how these mage specs felt in Season 3, sort of snapshotting it in my mind. But Midnight casts a really long shadow over what Fire Mage used to be. And this video isn't just about numbers, it's about identity. Fire has always been my go-to spec, pretty much since the day I learned it. I was practicing Frost in Shadowlands until I found some videos going over how to play Fire in Raid, and then trying it for myself, I instantly connected to that overwhelming adrenaline of executing a clean combustion. Whipping around the battlefield, pyro after pyro, flame striking packs with SKB, lining everything up to where my damage actually reflected my performance. Over time, I got better by putting myself into worse situations, moments where I would either have to adapt or eat a DPS loss because I was walking back to the pull. And that mattered. Because at the time, I learned fast that Fire rewarded understanding. I had to adapt or succumb to the DPS loss that dying provided. Fast forward to the beginning of last year, we had recently lost a charge of Phoenix Flames going from 3 to 2, and yeah, that felt slower, but when used correctly, Glorious Incandescence let us find the fire blasts that we needed during Combust to keep it all smooth. The spec changed, but it was still rewarding execution. We weren't the old school nuclear 10-second burst spec anymore. Instead, we became more about uptime, decision making, and playing clean consistently because of our newfound combust uptime. And honestly, it felt amazing. Were there problems? Sure. Mana issues in some keys, SKB before Unleashed Inferno was its own experience, and Flamestrike being at times a ground-targeted nightmare in pugs. But let's be real, if you knew what your core goals were, you were having a pretty okay time. Realistically, Mage has always been built on that same system. Know your buttons, know your priorities, and you will be rewarded. The classic glass cannon playstyle on paper. Sure, because of it, I understand that it's had a rough barrier to entry. I've seen it time and time again regardless of the spec. Countless players getting caught behind the misunderstanding of defensives, positionings, and just your role in keys in general, then attempting to translate that to raid when a lot of the times you're the mechanic guy because of the mobility that you have on hand, you get lost. I even made a video a while back about defensives and how to use them correctly and think about the priority and tools that you have access to. Mirrors giving DR, Invis being as good as Ice Block, Alter Time being one of the best all-in-one tools for instant health regen and positional errors, Shimmer basically being a get-out-of-jail-free card, barrier talents you can spec into to get out of snares, recharge faster, heal you even. Mage rewarded knowledge, and if you didn't have it, you felt it. But now, Mage is Obviously, that's not literally true. Arcane is looking strong in beta, and Frost really isn't that far behind, but to me, it just isn't the same class anymore. The class tree, for example, got tossed around beyond belief. Diverted energy is gone, accumulative barrier is gone, and get this, word on the street is mass barriers. Ice flows got removed as well, which is odd timing considering that we're incentivized to cast now more than ever before. Mirrors is still on our bars, thank god, but even with the talents lowering its cooldown, it's basically just an aggro button. And speaking of a similar ability providing assistance with aggro and targeted spells too, Invis is still alive and also has some really good supporting talent. Oh, it's losing its DR? Do you know why? Oh, they hate when a white boy tries to live? Oh, okay. But enough of me complaining. It's okay, we have better talents now, like Improve Spell Steal, and oh, Remove Curse has a supporting talent too. Definitely worth waiting 20 seconds when you can just Dispel twice in 16. Well, with that being said, at least we're still the goats of crowd control. They did what to Blast Wave? After casting Combustion, your next blink will cause a Blast Wave at your previous location dealing fire damage, knocking enemies back 8 yards and slowing them by 70% for 6 seconds. Who let them cook on this? Who proofread this and said, yo, that is sick, put that shit in the game? I refuse to believe the people working on Fire Mage play any Fire Mage themselves whatsoever. And it's just as bad on Arcane, because what would you be doing casting Surge inside of a pack? That shit would just be like a Bonnie Blue special, surrounded by God knows what mobs, excited to go and then they get with. Okay, now for the fun part, let's talk about Fire. Phoenix Flames is gone. In exchange, Fire Blast CDR is everywhere, so you're swimming in IBs. Sounds good. Until you realize IBs don't actually do anything meaningful now. Without proper Ignite support, they're pretty much only used to convert heating ups. For example, on the M+ build, we don't take Wildfire, but even if we did, one extra target for Ignite is a waste of a talent. Conflagration hits more targets, cool, but it builds Ignite independently instead of reading in the talent that it's actually spreading it to 8 targets. Mastery, once again, fading further into irrelevance, not only literally, but with supporting pieces following suit. So instead, we pivot to Haste Crit, We take Pyroclasm, Meteor with a few more talents to help its CDR, and Sun Fury Execution for more Clasm support. Combust is now on a 1 minute cooldown because why wouldn't you take Kindling? And now we're into this big burn, mini burn setup alternating every 30 seconds. And that's the problem. First we lose all of our class identity with Mastery fading further off the distance with every new expansion, and now we're losing all of our class identity with Combustion no longer being something we have to work for. I liked being in the trenches. I liked the feeling of fucking up my Combust and having to do better the next time because it ingrained the required thought process and skill expression that is needed to succeed with this spec. Now the only thing incentivized is flame striking the majority of the first boss on Algathar and watching other people do the same thing. If only we had a spell that could pump one target and a passive that would support cleave in a way that was beneficial to the group without losing priority damage. Get this as a side point. Fire was bugged during beta. Am I bugged right now? What the f? I have to be bugged. I have to be bugged. I have to be bugged. This has to be a bug. This has to be a bug. This has to be a bug. We had infinite casts of Flame Strike without needing to IB during CDs because of an interaction I can only assume had something to do with crit counters and the target being hit, thinking it's worth more than just one crit, which sounds insane, just spamming Flame Strikes and topping meters, but no. Because it wouldn't let us spend our Pyroclasm proc since we couldn't get out of the cycle of Flame Strikes unless we used a Pyro to actually consume the hot streak and not instantly get one back, which is just so much time and so many globals and an already short damage CD. But even with the bug being utilized to its full potential, we were still getting lapped by almost every other spec in overall charts. On top of that, once again, now we're piss easy to play. Mind you, all of this talk is about Sun Fury. Frostfire is easier with less rotational nuance to focus on. I understand pandering to casual players for the majority of specs and making things more digestible, sure, but this is an MMO, is it not? Isn't it supposed to be a stretch for some people to get behind, with options to play what they identify with and enjoy the most? For a lot of players, difficulty makes a spec interesting. Forcing ingenuity onto players is not a bad thing. Unfortunately, I don't have many ideas on how to make this better or where to go from here. If I did, that would be for another video anyways. But it's more confusion that's striking me with the state of Fire. Why change? Why make a stagnant 1 minute CD from something that had so much expression involved? Why continue to cut back on Ignite benefits instead of honing in and balancing what you have the best that you can? But look, I understand my opinion isn't higher than anyone else's. There's no reason for the devs to listen to me, let alone watch this video, but my opinion isn't alone. Other classes are complaining about this too. And in the words of someone I forgot the name of, you can't complain about something if you aren't actively partaking in the attempt of making it better.